And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FT off. Bring in FT off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What do you think?
Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
All right, hello and welcome everyone back for Kids Week. How are you all doing today? Good. All right. And welcome to everyone who's tuning in at home on our live stream. Thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Alicia. I'm the producer of public programs here at the Intrepid Museum. And we have so many exciting things going on all week long for you here. Today, of course, was one of our space-themed days. We have a bunch of friends here from NASA. We've got engineers. We have balloon making and space souvenir making over there with vacuum packs. All kinds of fun things. They're making lunar landers over there. Coming up later in the week, we've got our arts and culture days where we're having live performances and a lot of other culturals from the New York City area coming. And then after that, we've got our nature STEM days. So we'll actually be having live animals and a baby kangaroo here as well. Lots of robots and things. So if you are into any of that, which I'm sure many of you are, please do come back. We'd love to have you. Or if you're not here, but you're in the New York area, or even if you're not, why not? Come on by and check it out all week long. But we are so thrilled now to have for you some very special guests and, of course, a very special live stream of our Intrepid Museum's Astro Live. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a free online program that we do here with the museum. We partner with an organization called NASA Spaceflight, and we stream out some amazing conversations from engineers and scientists from NASA and other really amazing space partners throughout the world. And we are actually doing a live stream of it now here for you today with our special guests. So with us today, of course, you might have heard from her earlier. We have Dr. Jeanette Epps, who is a real life, yes, a round of applause. She is a real life astronaut. She actually just came back last year from the Crew-8 mission. So she got to spend about 8 months in space doing some really amazing work. And also former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino, who is also our Intrepid Museum Senior Advisor for Space Programs. So we're going to have them up here to do a chat for a little bit, and then we're going to turn it over to you all for some Q&A, and as well as some Q&A from our watchers at home, too. But I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction for each of them as well, so please come on up here. A round of applause for our guests. All right, so Dr. Jeanette Epps here. She's a New York native. She was selected in July of 2009 as one of 9 members of the 20th NASA astronaut class. Her astronaut candidate training included scientific and technical briefings, intensive instruction in International Space Station systems, spacewalk training, robotics, T-38 flight training, and wilderness survival training. She launched to the International Space Station on March 3rd, 2024, as a mission specialist on NASA's SpaceX Crew-8 mission, and she served as a flight engineer aboard the orbiting laboratory for nearly 8 months. Joining her here is Mike Massimino. He served as a NASA astronaut. Another round of applause. All right. He served as a NASA astronaut from 1996 to 2014. He is a 4-time spacewalker who completed 2 missions to the Hubble Space Telescope, including the final Hubble servicing mission. And he's also the first person to ever tweet, or X, I guess now, from space. Additionally, he serves, as I mentioned, as the Intrepid Museum Senior Advisor for Space Programs, and he's also a New York Times bestselling author. So everyone, please give a warm Kids Week welcome to our special guests, Jeanette Epps and Mike Massimino.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Jeanette is our special guest today, so I'm going to ask her a couple of questions. We're going to go for about how long, Alicia? We'll
go for about half an hour or so, and we'll do a bunch.
3:30 or so, and then we'll turn it over to you. So if you have some questions, make sure you remember them if you think of them right away, because we'll go to questions in about a half an hour. But I'm really happy to see Jeanette. I haven't seen her I've watched her in space a few times, so I feel like I've seen you, but we haven't spoken in almost 2 years. It was the last time I think we saw each other. Yep. We were together at a conference, and you were very excited. You were assigned at the time, and you got to fly in space with some really interesting people, and just had a great mission. I did. So I'm very happy to see you again. I'm so happy for everything, the way it worked out, and
yeah, me too.
So cool to have you here. So why don't we go back a little bit? You grew up near Syracuse.
I grew up in Syracuse.
In Syracuse, yep. Okay, in Syracuse. And so was there something that happened when you were like, I got these little kids here. I don't know who's paying attention, but you should pay attention to this. but when you were a kid, or at some point in your life, did the light bulb come on and say, I'd really love to be an astronaut? What happened?
Well, as a kid, I never thought they would select me to be an astronaut. So my twin sister and I, we watched a lot of public television. So like Nova and all these different shows that they had that were science related or even like investigative in nature. Mm-hmm. So we watched a lot of public television, and I think that's what got both of us, my twin sister and me, involved in wanting to do anything related to space or science, engineering, mathematics. So it took public television to get me there.
So that's what was there anything like? Was there a certain episode or something that's like you remember that? Wow, that was really cool.
Well, so there wasn't one episode of Nova or something like that. Really, what it was my brother coming home from school. He was at Rochester Institute of Technology.
Nice, yeah.
My sister and I, we were around 9, and it was around the time that Sally Ride and all these other women were selected to be astronauts.
1978.
Yeah. We were pretty young, but he looked at our grades and he's like, well, you guys are doing really well in math and science. Maybe you want to become an aerospace engineer or maybe an astronaut. Whoa. And that's when I said, they'll never pick us to do that, but we can definitely become aerospace engineers or some kind of scientists.
So did you have a favorite subject growing up when you got through high school or something that changed that meant a lot to you?
It's kind of weird. Even in high school, I had these ups and downs, like, I want to do that, but then maybe I should do something else. I want to do that, maybe I want to do something else. I even tried, I got an internship in Syracuse where we had a chance to work I had a chance to work in pathology.
This is when you were in college now?
This was right before I started college, and I was trying to figure out, do I want to go to into medicine or engineering? And I got a chance to work with a pathologist, and he invited me in to see 2 autopsies. And
so pathology is what? It's the study of bad things or stuff that kills you.
Well, exactly. Exactly. What killed this person, in other words. And so we were investigating 2 different people. And so he invited me to see these autopsies. As soon as I left there after that, I went right into engineering. I said, no, I think aerospace is where I should be.
To me, I'd stopped in 8th grade with the frog.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's seen enough.
Exactly.
But math and science, engineering. So you decided to study engineering.
Yeah.
And you went to Maryland? Is that where you went?
Yes, for graduate school.
Where'd you go undergrad?
I went to Lemoyne College in Syracuse.
Okay. So you stayed local for college, but you were studying aerospace engineering right from the get-go.
Right, and I was physics undergrad, and then I went to aerospace at University of Maryland.
Maryland. Yeah. And so you're in the aerospace department there.
Yeah.
Did you run into Dave Aiken? Did you ever
run
into this guy?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew him from my days in grad school. And,
He's a great guy.
I think he's retiring now. Anyway, Dave Aiken was his professor.
And he was applying to the astronaut corps.
He did, yeah, I remember
that's
that.
One of the reasons I never thought they would select me, because I thought he was a great guy. He's smart. He's doing all these great things, but he still wasn't selected. So that kind of, sealed it. I was like, I'm not going to apply. But later on in life, after all these other experiences, I decided to go ahead and apply.
Yeah, he was a good. I knew him when I was in grad school for a little bit before he went to Maryland.
Yep.
And he was quite. He was very kind, very good guy.
Very kind person. Yeah.
I just heard he was retiring. So
wow. Okay, that's interesting.
I don't really believe that. I think. But anyway, so you went there and you did. There's a lot of cool space stuff going on in Maryland.
Oh, certainly. There is. Yeah, they even have their own mini neutral buoyancy lab.
Yeah, he had his own pool where you could do stuff underwater. Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you get a chance to work in that when you were in grad school?
No, I did a lot of stuff with composite materials. I worked in the building next door to his neutral buoyancy lab. So
you worked in materials, but again, now so you're in aerospace. And at that school where you went was a lot of space stuff going on.
A lot of space
You're
stuff.
close to Washington, D.C., close to the Goddard Space Flight Center, very close to Goddard Space Flight Center.
Yep.
So you were kind of involved with a lot of space.
It was always
stuff.
around, yeah.
It was always around you.
Always around, yeah.
When did you start applying? When did you say, I'm going to try this for sure? When did you apply?
I was always, so like people like Dave Aiken not getting in was kind of like a message to me. So I finished graduate school, and I said, well, I'm not going to apply to the astronaut corps. I'm going to just make my career exactly what I want it to be. So I went to work for Ford Motor Company. Oh. And I went there because, it was a way to kind of show my advisor that, hey, everything you taught me, I can apply anywhere I go. Mm-hmm. I should have gone to a helicopter company, but I chose to go to Ford Motor Company just to kind of expand my horizons.
Yeah.
And then I went on to work for the government after that.
Okay, so you worked for the government after Ford Motor Company.
Yep. And I was a fighter aircraft analyst.
Okay.
And then I was a technical ops officer at the agency.
Okay.
Yep.
And when did you get over the Dave Aiken thing and apply? If he's listening, Dave, you're inspired. Jeanette here, this is good, but when did you start actually, I'm going to give it a try? When did that happen?
Well, after working at Ford, I knew that I can be technical anywhere.
Yeah.
And then working at the agency, it kind of taught me that you can be an operational scientist as well, go out in the field and do things.
Yeah.
And so it was once I kind of came back from one of these trips, I realized that, maybe this is a good combination where it would make a good astronaut. Very technical, and I can be operational. I can work out in the field. So it was at that point where I said, okay, maybe this is my last chance to apply. I may as well just do it at least once and see what happens. And lo and behold, I never dreamed that they would have picked me, but here I am.
And you got it on the first try.
It was rare. And
it's very rare.
Yeah, it was very rare. And so, I was very fortunate.
Yeah, I went through 4 application cycles. I think Don Pettit went through like 11.
I know.
He went through not 11, but I think like 6 or 7.
He went through quite a few.
Yeah,
and Clay Anderson.
Clay as well, but I think he counts differently. I think he counts like his updates. He had an update because he says he applied 11 times. It's impossible. You didn't start when you were 5.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like every other year. Anyway, it depends how you count. Like Don had interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if Clay's listening. Probably not. But all right. So where are we now? So you get picked by NASA, right? And you go through all your training. What was the feeling like once you got there? And you're kind of what are some of your memories of your earliest training with your crew or with your class and so on?
Well, the thing that so I knew things were changing. And so I didn't know what our training was going to be like. Mm-hmm. I knew that the shuttle was going to retire, and our only way to the International Space Station was on the Russian Soyuz. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised where we got a chance to learn how to fly the T-38s. Mm-hmm. I thought that they wouldn't. I didn't know what they were going to do with the T-38s now that the shuttle was retiring.
Yeah.
We weren't flying a shuttle anymore. So we got to do that. We got to do all the robotics. We got to do the spacewalk training, all of it. And that was a lot of fun. And then the other thing was all of the analog missions. Like I did the NEEMO stuff where you live underwater for 9 days. I did the caves in 2019, which was a lot of fun. And that was probably the most high threat analog mission that you can do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So caves, let's discuss this a little bit, because you have to do a lot of things to get ready to go to space.
Yeah.
And so some of them were kind of unusual training experiences, right? Is
Yeah.
everyone hearing me okay? I don't know if this mic is working. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So, explain. Let's go with the caves. What was that? What was that like? It was actually in a cave.
It was in
right?
a
Weren't you in
cave,
a cave
in Slovenia, yeah. So basically we had to learn how to do mountaineering. So we used ascenders, descenders, all these different types of ropes and different ways to kind of tie in and rappel in and out of a cave system. And when you go down in the cave, we went down about 200 meters under the surface, and we stayed there for 5 days. It's very dark, it's very cold, and when it rains in Slovenia, it goes down into the cave system, so it's extremely slippery too. And that's how you can really hurt yourself, because the rocks are slippery. But basically, it's a mountaineering crew, and then my crewmates for the mission was Takuya Onishi, Josh Kuchik Takuya Onishi is from the Japanese Exploration Agency.
He's getting ready to go again, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
And then Josh Kuchik from the Canadian Space Agency.
Yeah.
We had Nikolai Chub from Roscosmos, cosmonaut.
Uh-huh.
We had Alex Scares from the European Space Agency.
Yeah.
And Joe Akaba.
Okay, all right.
So we had this kind of multinational crew.
Yeah.
And that's one of the points of the analog. You've got this crew. You're all from different countries, different backgrounds, but you got to make a team. And Takuya said he made the best comment at the end of all of this. It was very dangerous, and he said every day it was us against the cave, and we had to bring each other in and out every day and survive together. So It was a tough mission.
That's what I understand. Drew Feustel, my crewmate and good friend, your friend as well.
Exactly.
He left NASA about a year ago or
exactly.
But anyway, but when he was doing that, I think he did it after I left NASA. But so what was it like? And he said, it was all right after I got over the fact that I might get killed at any moment. He said like he was afraid he was going to die like every moment.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like what it was like.
Dark.
He was terrorized the whole time. But it was a good experience if you got through it.
Yeah, if you survive.
Yeah.
You don't do it again immediately. You wait 5 years, 10 years down the road and do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I never got to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it would. I don't know if I didn't get to do it. I avoided it. Whatever you want to think. What about the NEEMO experience? Like, how did that? The NEEMO is an underwater facility. How did that prepare you to go to space?
Well, it's the same thing. Aki Hoshide was our commander. He's from the Japanese Space Agency. Yeah. We had Thomas Pesquet from the European Space Agency, Mark Vandehei, colonel in the Army, and then me and 2 HABTECs. Okay. So it's 6 of us living underwater at about 2.5 atmospheres, higher pressure, for 9 days. And so it's the same thing. We're living in really tight quarters, and you got to work together as a team. And our mission was to simulate what we would do if we went to an asteroid. And so it was an amazing experience, because we actually ended up better friends when we left there. We were really tight in close quarters, but the fact that we left as friends was that was ideal.
Good.
It doesn't always happen that way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it's, you mentioned that. It's interesting. I think that people ask about what do you need to be an astronaut and everything. You got to be able to get along. Right, you've got to be a good team member and a good friend.
Sense of humor,
sense of humor helps sometimes.
It helps tremendously.
Those are all attributes that are. But being able to get along and support your friends and work as a team is something certainly that is important. I
agree.
That's what a lot of these things bring out, I think, too.
Yeah,
these are training exercises.
Exactly.
All right, so all this training at NASA, going in the cave, going underwater, flying in jets, spacewalk training, robot training, all this stuff. Yeah. And then you get assigned to a flight. Yeah. Very exciting when that happens, of course.
Yes.
And you prepare for that specifically. Yeah. What were some of the things you remember from that specific training? Was there certain goals you had? We're going to be doing this or that, or what was the emphasis? Was there an emphasis, or was it kind of general? What was it like getting ready for the specific flight that you went on? Well,
for specific flights, it's kind of nice, because what ends up happening is you're training kind of generically. We do go to like the European Space Agency, we go to Russia to train, and we learn about the systems on board. And sometimes you learn about the specific experiments you'll do. But I mean, most of the time you're just training in general, which is kind of nice. the biggest thing that you practice during the training and that you have to know is all the emergency procedures. Like if there's a fire, what do you do in case of a fire? If there's a rapid depressurization, what do you do? How do you go through the formula to figure out which way to go? And on orbit, we have ammonia, anhydrous ammonia on the U.S. side, so we could have an ammonia leak also. And so there's different things that happen.
And ammonia is used for cooling.
Exactly.
And it's nasty for people to be near that. They keep it outside the spaceship
it's
typically.
outside.
Yeah.
But there's a path where it can get inside, and we train for that. It's not likely, but you have to train for it.
Yeah.
And then, we train for every type of emergency. Even when we go to Russia, we're training for water survival or winter survival. And in the States, we're training for, whatever happens if we have to do an emergency deorbit. And so how do you train for that? So a lot of our training is actually emergency training and having the muscle memory in case something goes wrong.
No, so a lot of emergency training that hopefully you never use.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully you never use.
Yeah.
So you got ready for all that. And tell us a little bit about your crew, who you went up with. Who was on this space flight with you?
So the pilot for our crew was Dr. Barrett, Michael Barrett. He's a medical doctor, but we were all trained at a certain level to be chief medical officers. And then we had Lieutenant Commander Matthew Dominic. He was the commander of the Dragon itself. And then we had Alexander Gubilkin from Roscosmos, the cosmonaut who flew on the shuttle with us. On the Soyuz, who joined us later, was Tracy Dyson Caldwell. And so we had a surly bunch. We got along really well on orbit. Tracy and I didn't know Tracy that well because she trained on the Soyuz side and we trained on the Dragon. But we had a great time. Like in the evenings, you're sitting in Node 1 around the galley table and just laughing about things that happened that day. And then complete misunderstandings, that's everything that's funny. We sit at the galley table and we go through and just deconstruct the day. And then we had, on the Russian side, we had Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub again. And so it was, at one point in time, we only had 7 people. And then we had the Starliner guys come up and join our crew. And, Sunny, she's happy-go-lucky. Yeah. We had a great time together. Yeah. So those guys are doing well. And, everything's as like a regular mission right now. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Tracy and her crew got replaced by Don Pettit and his crew on the Soyuz. So you got to spend some time with Don in space?
Yes, I did. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. He's the mad scientist up there, but he does some amazing just experiments. And, I think this is his 3rd flight, if I'm not mistaken. 2nd or 3rd.
He had a long duration shuttle flight.
Yep.
Then he had a regular shuttle flight.
Yep.
Then he had another then he had a Soyuz flight.
Yep. So this is
his 4th one, Yes. He's going to be 70 years old soon.
Yes,
he was in my astronaut class, but he's much older than I am. But is he going to turn 70 in space?
Yes, he is.
We should have a party for him.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But he's doing some fun things up there.
Yeah,
growing things, taking pictures.
Yeah.
He's doing all kind of cool
he
things.
invented how to take pictures. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. He's got like a whole process of how to get. So what's not known is it's really difficult to get good pictures on the station. Yeah. And so that's why they give us the best cameras, because the cameras do a lot of the work. You still have to know how to use it, but Don is the expert up there.
Yeah, mad scientist is right.
Yeah.
Did he do anything? Did he grow anything when you're? And this is about you here, but what's he growing? Because he grew a sunflower. Did he have a sunflower growing in the space station with you guys?
Not this time. He got other things.
He flew a sunflower, and a sunflower that we see on Earth has a very
thick stalk. Yeah.
But in space, it was the big flower with just a string, because it doesn't need to fight gravity.
It's amazing.
He had all kinds of crazy stuff. So he was doing the science stuff still?
He's doing some things up there. Yeah. I hope that a lot of it comes out, but he's doing some cool things.
Yeah. He did a downlink with my students at Columbia. We had a downlink with him. And he arranged it. We were going back and forth on email, and he did it from the cupola. Yeah. Because he figured out a way. The cupola is where there's a lot of light coming. Usually you do it down there.
Density filters.
Yeah, he figured this thing so you can do it.
Really good.
Yeah, so he's a genius.
Yeah, the lighting issue is big.
Yes, and he is not distracted from his geniusness. He's just like, I'm gonna.
He's like a kid in a candy store.
He comes up with these crazy ideas, and And what we think is, and then he follows through.
Oh.
He does. Yeah, he's
Every
awesome.
mission, he thinks of something new to do the next time.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
So he's
he's
awesome.
fantastic.
It is awesome.
Great, good guy, great friend. All right, so those were the people you went to space with. So I heard you talking earlier about the differences of getting to space with different rocket ships and so on. So you flew on the Dragon,
with the Falcon 9
and I flew
rocket.
on the shuttle.
Yep.
And you were making a comparison to the two.
Yes.
What can I fill in here?
Well, so on the shuttle, you have the solid rocket boosters.
Yeah.
And those are totally different than just having a liquid propellant and you're flying the station. The external tank, that's when it becomes smooth for you guys, once you defer to that.
Yeah.
So, like, for you, with the solid rocket boosters, what does it feel like?
Oh, it shakes you up. Because they're like giant sticks of dynamite, these things. They're really colossal.
They are.
And when you light them, the other thing is you can't turn them off. Like an engine, you can throttle, you slow down in your car, And that's not going on with these things. These things, you light them and you're on your way. It might not be where you want to go, but you're heading in that direction. And we didn't have any abort or anything we could do until those things were done. And it was 2.5 minutes. And they can't really prepare you for this. You can kind of shake a little bit, or I don't know. But these things, they're really violent, and it's like, oh man, I hope something.
And when you're on the ground, you can feel it.
Yeah, these things, they really just shake you up.
Yeah.
They shake you up pretty good. And then it smooths out. Then you're right. They leave after 2.5 minutes, and then the G forces build up to about 3 Gs. Was it similar to you guys had 3 at the end?
It was a little bit more than we were about 4.
Really?
Yeah, a little over 4.
That's cool.
Slightly.
For how long did you get those for?
Oh, not long. Gosh, I wish I could remember the profile.
A couple minutes?
It was maybe a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we had about 3 Gs for about 2.5. So I think that, because it was like really a lot of shaking until those rockets left, and then you're like, oh, okay, those things are gone.
Yeah.
But for you, it's smooth the whole way. You said describe it
like
how would you describe that whole experience?
Like kids on a roller coaster. I mean, because it was surreal. I mean, especially like there were 3 rookies on the mission, me included.
Yeah.
And we were all thinking, okay, this is not going to happen today. Let's just get out of the capsule until we launched. And it was surreal.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing, and it was like a thrill ride.
Yeah.
And we were screaming like kids on a roller coaster ride, but it was amazing. Yep.
And you were how long until you got to the space station? How long was it that you were inside of the spaceship?
So the way that the Dragon works is that it has to do certain phasing before it approaches the station. So we had about 30 hours of phasing.
Oh, okay. So you're in there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it varies depending on the mission. So they have different profiles.
So it can be a lot shorter.
It can be a lot
30 sounds
shorter.
like a long
it can
time.
even be longer.
Oh, it can.
Yeah.
All right. So you're right. So you had 30 hours in that thing.
Yep.
And then you rendezvous and attached to the space station.
Yep.
And so what was it like getting into the space station? You're like, oh man, I'm going to be here for 8 months. You're like, oh, this is great.
Well, I was like, wow, we're going to be here for 6 months. And then it turned into 8.
That can happen.
So that was, you enter the station and, people say there's a smell, but it's not really a smell. It's just that it's different because it's an atmosphere that's created for you. And then it's pressurized for you as well. So it's only slightly different, but it was beautiful and amazing. And like I said, getting there is kind of like you walk in, you float in, you don't walk anywhere in space. You kind of float in, and you're kind of like, wow, I can't believe I actually made it here.
Yeah.
And so then you just start going to work after that.
Yeah.
You figure out which crew quarters you're sleeping in. You start setting up your nest.
Yeah.
And then you pretty much start working almost immediately.
And you had a bit of a handover, right? So someone else was in that bedroom, and then you take it from them, or what do you do in between?
Well, what they did, which was nice, is that they vacated the premises before we got there, cleaned it out, and then Jasmine was sleeping in the airlock.
Oh, Jasmine was up there?
Jasmine Mogbelli,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know if everyone would get. So Jasmine, who else did you have up there?
So it was Jasmine, then Andreas Mogensen from the European
good guy.
Space.
Yeah, I like that guy.
He was staying in the CASA in the Columbus module.
Okay.
We had Satoshi Furukawa, too.
Oh, you can go in the Japanese module.
He was in the Japanese module, exactly.
All right, there you go. Yeah, good
went
group there.
Pretty well. Yeah, we had an easy group. Jasmine's super flexible, easy.
She's from Long Island, Jasmine is. She's from Baldwin, Long Island.
She's super easy.
I think it was her lacrosse coach was my phys ed teacher, and we went to the neighboring high. She's much younger than me, but
Oh, gosh.
yeah, Miss Asti got a promotion, I think, to go out to Baldwin High School after I graduated. But yeah, she's very cool.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, so you did that handover. You set up your bedroom, and then you say you got to work. So I know we want to get to the audience here in a couple of minutes, but describe me what are some of the memories from the work you did on 8 months in space?
Well, I remember a lot. So my favorite activity was when I had an experiment that took about 4 or 5 hours. So you start in the morning and you start taking things apart. You're following a procedure because the principal investigator on the ground has set this up so that, they want their experiment to go well. And so you're following the procedures, but you got to take things apart very carefully. You don't want pieces to float away. So when you start setting up an experiment, you got to set up tape, Velcro, whatever you need to kind of keep everything in place and in position. And I would stay in either the GEM or even in the Columbus module, and I'm there for 4 hours straight.
Wow.
And I'm just taking things apart and putting it back together. Or, like for the immunity assay stuff, I'm collecting my blood, or Matt's collecting his blood, and then we have to process it.
Whoa.
So we do this long process, and then we let it incubate overnight, then we centrifuge it, and then we freeze it after we go through this entire process.
Wow.
And it could be all morning. And so you're doing that for like 4 hours or more.
Wow.
Then you have exercise.
Yeah.
That's the other big thing.
Every day, right? It's
Every
6 days a
day.
week or all 7?
Well, it depends on your schedule. I try to do 7 days a week as often as I could.
You?
Well,
All right.
but sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
So out of 233 days, I exercise about 194 days.
Okay. Wow.
So sometimes you if there's a lot going on, you may not get it in, but majority of the time you can. And so exercise is definitely on your list.
And exercise is important to keep you healthy in zero gravity, or else your bones and your muscles won't do well.
They will atrophy. So you want to make sure you're doing the exercise protocol on the schedule. And then, we have lunch, and, everyone's doing lunch like catch as catch can. And then we have another evening conference with the ground, and then we have dinner. So it's usually like a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
So some of it's maintenance too. Like we may have to fix the WHC, the toilet, and change out components. So it's a lot of stuff that we have to do.
So every day's a different day.
Every day's a different day. Yeah.
Is there an experiment that was that stands out, or?
Oh yeah.
What would you say is the one you thought was, for whatever reason, the one that stands out?
Well, only because I had the chance to be the person to do it every time was the immunity assay.
Yeah. What is that? Immunity. What was it?
Immunity assay. Basically, they were looking at the immune function of the body.
Oh.
So they would take our blood before we launched, and then throughout the flight, we would gather blood, and we would do the process again. And then when we land, they would look at it again.
Okay.
And so from what I understood this was the first time that they were able to process all the blood while in space, so that they can look at the immunity function in your body from beginning all the way to the end, and see how it changes. You know, when you launch, you have a certain immune function. Yeah. Throughout the flight, it changes. Yeah. And then when you land, how fast does it come back if it's changed?
Yeah. And who did this? Was this from a university or
this
from NASA?
This was through European Space Agencies who did this one.
And they told you, did they find anything?
Not yet. They haven't, because at the end of the experiment, we had to freeze all the samples once we kind of processed it. Yeah. And they're looking at those results now.
So where are they?
They're looking at the results, hopefully, at ESA.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, make sure they tell you what happened.
I know. I agree.
So that'd be interesting. Very cool.
Definitely agree.
Okay. And now you're back.
Yep.
And what have you been doing? You've been back since October.
Yes. October 25th, we landed.
And have you been doing mainly talking about it, debriefing?
Oh, we did.
What's been going on?
So it's funny. You would think when you land, you kind of get a break. No. We landed, and then we went right into collection mode. So they were still collecting samples from each person, because each person is an experiment in and of itself. So we land and we have a little bit less plasma in our bodies, so we're a little bit anemic. But they need to take blood from us because they need to look at the immune function and all these other things as well. Yeah. And so you're kind of anemic, but you're going through, you're doing all the debriefs, you're doing MRI scans, you're doing ultrasound scans, you're doing all kind of things. So for like 2 months, you don't really get a true break. And so it wasn't until the holidays and through January I got a break. So, yeah, now I'm out and about.
And are you, so you're doing these types of things, telling people what you did?
Yep.
Do you go, what's next? Do you go back to the office and get we used to call, getting a ground job again? Is that?
Yes, and that's at the end of April.
Oh, okay, so you got a little more time.
My boss is Megan Bacon.
Get out. Really, Megan?
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a good friend of mine who flew in space with.
Yep.
So, cool. She's going to be, was she at an ISS branch or something?
She's mission ready branch, I think.
Mission ready branch.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not assigned, but we're mission ready.
Mission ready. That's a good branch. Ready to go. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're a little bit past 3:30 here, and why don't we take some questions?
Sure. If anyone has any questions, raise your hand. Nice, big, and tall. I'll start on over here in the red jacket.
How many days do you have to stay there?
Oh.
How many days were you up there? How long did you stay up there?
I was there for almost 8 months, so it's like 235 days. Yeah. Should give you.
When it's night, when you wake up in the morning, do you end up on the ceiling?
Well, so how was it for you on the shuttle, Mike?
So on the space shuttle, we all kind of slept in the same area. It was like a slumber party, like a camping trip almost. Everyone was kind of in the same room, kind of in their sleeping bags. Yeah. So you'd get out of your sleeping bag and, you might be sleeping on the ceiling. In fact, I slept on the ceiling because you could put your sleeping bag anywhere. But a little bit different. You had your own little bedroom, your little crew quarters in there.
We had a
little different.
It's like a little closet.
Yeah.
But you kind of need that so that you don't float everywhere.
Yeah.
And you have a sleeping bag in there that's bungee to the wall. It's attached to the wall.
Yeah.
You just float in the sleeping bag. Yeah.
Yeah. On the space shuttle, I was only in space for like 14 days, the most. So you can, you have a slumber party for 14 days, it's okay. But for 8 months, you might need a little, having your own room is better.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, over here.
Earlier, you said that something was shaking like lit up dynamite. Is it?
It's shaking?
Yes. Yeah, that was the space shuttle. So the space shuttle had two different kinds of rockets. So they had a liquid-fueled rocket, which means it runs on liquid fuel like a car. We have electric cars now, but car, if you put gas in it, that's fuel, that's liquid, that's a liquid fuel. Or a lawnmower, I don't know what kind of, this is New York City, so you don't always mow lawn. But if you live out in the suburbs and you have a lawnmower, then you put gasoline in it, that's a liquid fuel. Those engines seem to run a little bit smoother than the solid rocket motors we had. And it was like a stick of dynamite or a gigantic firecracker. Don't ever play with those things, no good. But they would light and they would run, because they were a solid material, not liquid, they ran really rough.
Okay, right over here behind.
How soft was the touchdown when you landed?
Oh, so for the Dragon, we waited till the weather was really nice, and so we landed on water, and so it wasn't. I felt like it was softer than I expected. It wasn't completely soft, and it wasn't like a landing from a Soyuz, which is different. And then Mike had a whole different experience because you guys, they actually landed like a plane.
Yeah, we landed on a runway, and the commander on both of my flights was Scott Altman, and he was a very good pilot, of course, and it was very smooth. So landing was very smooth.
Yeah.
For you, what was it like when on impact? Did you feel something, or?
Well, as we're coming through the atmosphere, you hear a loud pop, and that's the first set of parachutes. They're called drogue chutes. And then you hear a second loud pop, and it's the parachutes opening up. And then as we come down, we kind of hit the water, but it's not as hard as you think. I thought it was going to be this big, monumentous moment, and it's going to jostle us around. No, we landed, and then we could feel the uprighting bags sit us upright, and it was a non-issue to me. It was smoother than I thought. Yeah.
And then they open up the hatch, and you smell the earth again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you haven't used the muscles in your neck in a long time.
Oh, is that
your
right?
Your head weighs about 100 pounds.
Oh.
If that.
That's because you're so smart. I don't know if I'd have that trouble.
I wish.
Yeah.
Okay, here in the center.
So anyway, but you have to get used. Your muscles got to get.
Yeah.
Your muscles got to get used to it again.
Exactly. Especially after, I mean, even after 14 days, I'm sure you guys felt it as well.
You could feel it, but not, 8 months, I think, would be much different.
It was really prominent.
Yeah.
Because you're like, whoa, your head is just...
That's the first thing you noticed, though, was the
my head,
weight of your head.
Well, we have the helmet from the suit on, too. That's why.
You kept that? Okay.
Yeah,
you didn't get that off yet?
And then you just kind of feel like, wow. Yep.
And you needed help to get out of that thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
What does it feel like to float in a low-gravity environment?
Say that again?
What does it feel like to float?
To float?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Floating is a weird phenomenon because it's hard to describe. When you take away gravity, there's just nothing pulling you down. And the reason your head feels like it's so heavy is because in space you don't hold your head up. It just floats. Everything just floats. So you're not really using all the small muscles that you do here on Earth to balance yourself. So floating, you kind of feel just a release of all these different forces, and it's just very different. And it's unique. Yeah, I can say. I don't know how you felt the first time.
Well, what's interesting is that on the space shuttle, I got to float outside the spaceship, spacewalking and stuff. Yeah. But generally, in the shuttle, you're kind of floating around in a room.
Yeah.
It's not that it becomes bigger in space because you can float around it, but you couldn't really fly. And that's discouraged during a spacewalk. So you didn't do that during a spacewalk.
No.
But you got to do that, right? Did you get to do the Supergirl thing through the
one module to the next?
Did you get to do that?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And it's a weird phenomenon. It's hard to describe, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, over here.
What does it feel like when you came back to Earth?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't know about you.
What was the question?
What does it feel like when you come back to Earth?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Well, gravity is not so good when you come back. But like I was saying, the little muscles that you don't use while you're in space, you realize that you haven't used them because your head, you don't hold your head up in space. So when you land, you realize that, holy cow, your head has a lot more mass with the helmet on, and it just feels really heavy. Everything feels heavy. Then your inner ear is kind of going a little crazy, trying to figure out, oh, I'm back in gravity. So then it knows up and down. And so for the first day or two, your inner ear is stabilizing. And then the rest of your body has to come along, and all of the small muscles that you don't use start to strengthen. So we landed on a Friday, and that following Monday, I was back in the gym. Just to rebuild those small muscles.
Over here.
When you exercise in space, do you sweat?
So when we exercise in space, we stretch.
Sweat.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're on the treadmill. And so you got to be careful because the sweat floats around, and you don't want to offend your colleagues. You want to make sure you kind of not spread too much sweat on them. Yeah. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
And your clothes, the sweat gets recycled. And do you use the same exercise clothes over and over again? We had one shirt per day on the shuttle.
Yeah, you guys were spoiled.
That's the way we like it. We like to be spoiled.
Well, like, for example, you get 2 sets of workout clothes, 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants.
For 8 months?
No, for so it's like 2 weeks for 2 weeks.
Oh, all right, that's not so bad.
You get 2 sets for 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
And you just recycle them. You never wash. We don't wash clothes. Clothes aren't washed in space.
Well, they did give us one workout shirt, the same thing like you did for working out, but it had some special thread in it that so it wouldn't stink or something. Some silver thread or kryptonite or I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you try not to smell, but sometimes it's inevitable.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Okay, right here down front.
Hi, just want to ask you, how do you feel for 8 months to be alone with the same people? Is there any tension sometimes? How does it work? Do you focus on your work?
Even 2 weeks. I mean, you're with the same crew, so it's you go in knowing the time right. So you kind of I know how long I'm going to be with this crew, but you do end up bonding very much so.
I have a question related to that. Did you bond more see for us with the shuttle, like my crew, the 125 crew?
Yeah.
You mentioned Megan. We were and our flight got delayed on the ground, so we were together for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
right? Before we flew, like every day. And we also see each other on the weekends typically too. We really liked each other.
Yeah.
And we would see, and so we were kind of, with your, I'm just curious because you had, you got, how long were you guys together? Were you always together as a crew?
No, we had 1 year of training together.
And were you like in the same office every day seeing each other kind of thing? Or what was it?
There was most of that, but
I mean, sometimes we had different events. That's kind of, I'm not really describing it correctly, but we were together
but you're right. I mean, and so because of our different training background, like I had trained as the backup for Crew-8. So I had a lot of the training already. So mine was a little bit different. But we do see each other just about every day for a year. But I think we bonded more in space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you had said like Tracy.
Then Tracy was the new.
You did not see her very much during your training.
No, we didn't see her much at all.
And probably Pettit.
Nope.
And Butch and Sonny, so you bonded. Because that's interesting because people ask, well, you're only there for 14, like we were. But we really bonded, I think, in some of these adventures. Because we went on like NOLS, which is outdoor leadership, kind of not as crazy as the cave, but we did like rappelling, we did canyon lands, and so. But we had those experiences in our training as a crew. So we spent a lot. It's more getting along on the ground.
I did that the year before with Koichi and Steve Bowen. I didn't get a chance to do it without.
Yeah, it was a little bit. I always wondered how that was. It was
fun.
different.
So the bonding, it either takes place on the ground or in space. One way or another, you're going to bond with your crew. And that's what those analog missions do for you also. You kind of learn a lot about yourself and about your crewmates. So, I wish we had done NOLS together because a lot of the personality comes out.
Yeah, we got to do all those trips together. We trained together. And then when we I remember when we landed, you went home, like the next morning, we had I don't know what our sleep shift was like, but I was up pretty early. Everyone in my house was still sleeping, like about 6 in the morning. And I was like, I wonder what those other guys are doing. And we started just calling each other, seeing who was doing what. I met Foistel for lunch. I just spent all this time with. We missed each other. So I think that's really, I think, one of the joys of being an astronaut.
I think so.
You get, especially with your crew. It's more my second crew. I like my first crew too, but it was really that second crew was a special group. So
yeah, I love that.
Over here.
I am interested in what the impact on eyesight and how eyes work and the muscle in the eye. And acted while you're in the space station for such in the period.
Well, so I don't know if you noticed in one of the videos I showed we were doing a lot of eye exams on the space station because there's this space-adapted neuroocular syndrome that they're looking at. We're doing a lot of research on that. It's called SANS. And basically, they're predicting like you get a fluid shift in your body when you go to space and even into your brain. So that's why we have the puffy face when we're in space. But it also goes behind your eyes. So we're looking at interocular pressure. They're looking at several different features of the eye to see how it changes, like even the shape of the eyeball. We did a lot of ultrasounds on the eyeball as well. And so OCT exams, I don't know if you saw that, that's one of the things we did. So there is an impact on your eyes, and one of the things that we looked at was a lot at the shape of the eyeball. I had some of that while in space, but since I've returned, my eyesight is completely back to normal. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so I still have 20/20, thank God. So.
When you were going through those changes in orbit, do you wear contact lenses normally, or are you 20/20?
I don't. So I don't wear contact lenses normally.
You're 20/20, or
I had
you wear
20/20, and on orbit it went down a little bit.
Whoa.
But that's because of the fluid shift.
Did you have a correcting lens? Or
I did. I wore glasses in space, so I wore glasses often.
Did they predict this, or did you have a set you had to figure it out up there?
No. That's kind of cool because they can predict it.
Right. So what did you do?
They predicted. They gave me 2 sets of glasses, one for the beginning, and then if once it progresses, it always progresses. And so they had one for probably about 3 to 4 months into the mission.
They knew what was going to happen?
Yeah.
So they did predict that?
They did predict that. We did a lot of eye exams, too, in space. A lot of them.
Wow. And this happened to everybody, or some people not susceptible?
Well, and some people are more susceptible than others. And so, they were looking at genetics to see if some people were predisposed due to genetics. So that's an ongoing study, though. Yeah.
But everyone had a little bit of a change.
Except the young folks, the younger folks. They had some, but everyone gets the fluid shift, and you get fluid behind the eyes. And it depends on a number of different things. And some people, they get like, it squishes your eyeball, so when it squishes, it changes your vision.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what happened to you.
Yep.
But it went away.
It goes away, thank God, right?
Because it doesn't go away for everybody.
It doesn't go away for everybody, yep. So and that's what they're studying, the fact that some people it doesn't go away.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Okay, right over here.
What was your favorite dish to eat in space?
My favorite what? I'm sorry.
Dish.
Oh.
Favorite food?
Oh, it was the tomato basil soup.
Ooh.
It was the one thing that actually tasted fresh. Everything else was good food. I mean, and it wasn't like going out to dinner, but it was definitely very good food you can eat. I mean, there were no issues with the food. And plus, we do have one of the food ladies here, so we better.
The food scientist, right?
Yeah. We got Vicky over there.
Hey, Vicky.
Go visit Vicky Claris, our food scientist.
To feed us.
Yes.
She was great, yeah.
One of the breakfasts that she has over there, it's a little vegetable quiche. That was my go-to for breakfast almost every day.
Ah.
Yep.
I gained weight in space. I was only there for a couple.
Right? But you have to eat, otherwise you feel like crap.
But I did it twice. I think Mark Lee did it. One of you from way before him. He did it only one. I think Barrett did it too. Did he?
He gained weight.
Yeah, he gained. Yeah. There's only a few of us that are able to do that.
Well, but it's better for your health if you do that.
Now
I think you come back.
I felt guilty the whole time.
No, it's better. It's much better.
So we have a couple of questions from our chat, from our live stream right now as well. So I want to make sure I get to some of those too. Somebody was asking, you were talking about the G-forces, right, and going up into space. Do you feel like you felt more G's during training or on your actual mission? And do you feel like that training really prepared you for that?
Well, it's funny. I kind of think during training I felt like it was going to be more. Maybe it's because I expected it. When we were coming back through the atmosphere and launching, because we do centrifuge training out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and even in Star City, I think in Star City they go up to like 8 Gs.
Whoa.
It's through your chest, you're on your back kind of doing this. And so I think all the training that we went through kind of prepares you mentally. So it seems like it was easier as we were coming back, going into space and coming back home.
And also, kind of speaking of that training, then you had a chance to train on multiple different spacecraft before your actual flight into space. So how does the training differ between the different capsules that you got to train on?
Well, the Soyuz training is very different because it's so small, and your knees do get crunched in the vehicle, but it does become comfortable after a while. And within the Soyuz, you have to do water survival training and winter survival training. And then the centrifuge training is up to 8 Gs, and that's kind of interesting. And it's the same, we do all the systems training over in Russia. Even their guidance and navigation system is a lot of interesting training that we'll likely not use, but it was very good training. And then for the Dragon, the Dragon is so different than the shuttle, I think the shuttle guys had a lot more training for the shuttle. For the Dragon, it's an interesting vehicle because it can fly autonomously. So you do have to have people in there monitoring the systems who understand the dynamics, the orbital mechanics of what's happening, and can intervene if something goes wrong. But in general, it flies really well, and it's really comfortable. There's so much more room inside. But the shuttle is a little different, the training. So
it was mainly, like when you arrived in 2009.
Yeah.
Were you trained on you went right to Soyuz training?
We did. We did a very little intro, kind of like, this is the shuttle.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then we went into all the systems training.
For the station? For the station. Not the launch vehicle?
Not the launch vehicle.
Yeah.
And then once you're assigned the training for the launch vehicle.
Yeah, see, that's a big difference. I don't think that's, it's sometimes subtly, I think, shows the difference there. Because when we showed up, the first thing they did was hand us the SCOM, which is online. You can find it. The Space Crew, Shuttle Crew Operator's Manual, big giant book.
Yep.
And that was our world for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And the station was being built at the time, so we had a little bit of that, but it was all about the launch vehicle.
Yep.
How you were going to get there, because the shuttle was so complicated. You also, your mission was on the station, on the shuttle, so we had, that was that too. But now you get trained on the station.
On the station.
And then the launch vehicle comes later.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, big difference, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Another question.
A lot better, if you ask me. I like that new model.
Another question too about the ISS in particular. So, it's no secret the ISS will be deorbited in a few years. So, just kind of, what are your thoughts about the end of life of the ISS? Because many astronauts who've been there have fallen in love with the station.
I mean, it's not just a matter of falling in love with the station. It's a great platform to do research, and so I would hope that it could continue as long as it can. And the research that we get from it is invaluable. I mean, especially if we look at the human body and try to go through and do more investigations there, but also figuring out different materials that can help protect from radiation. There's a lot of materials kind of research that's happening up there. And then even plants. So there's a lot of research we can do on plants as well. And to me, it's just one of the best experimental platforms around. And once we get to the moon, it'll take time to figure out how to do research on the moon, because we have to build habitats. We have to figure out how to excavate the moon to get natural resources and how to use them. So it'll take a little time to figure out the moon. And in the meantime, we should practice on the station. So.
And then another question about your time on the ISS. What was your favorite experiment or thing to do on the ISS?
So my favorite experiment, this is like a broken record, but the immunity assay stuff is so interesting to me. And the thing is that we got to do the processing from taking our own blood, then doing the centrifuge, putting it into the incubator, and then doing the rest of the processing and then freezing it. It was kind of a complete experiment to be a part of. And that's what I liked about it. And working closely with the ground principal investigators, I thought it went really well. Hopefully we'll get great results. But even if we only get partial results, that was the first time we've done anything like that. Looked at the immune function from beginning of the flight, before we even launched, the flight, entire mission, and then on the ground. So we've gotten some data. It'll be good.
And then you get ice cream when they send up the freezer for you too, right?
Exactly.
This is from someone's 8-year-old at home. When you float through the space station, do you feel wind as you fly? Like breezing past you?
Yeah, you can feel that. I mean, you got to realize that everything, we have to have a ventilation system because you got to keep the air moving. You don't want to have pockets of carbon dioxide. And so, because we're breathing this out, it'll sit right here if you don't have a way to kind of circulate all of the gases on station. So you can feel that, yeah. You can feel it. It's just the wind, it's the fans blowing, and that's it. Yep.
Theoretically, there's a little drag, I guess, right? Because you're in the air as opposed to spacewalking. Still, it's a little...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, going through, there's a little bit of drag.
There is a little bit of drag.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's still, I mean, you've got atmosphere around you, so there's a little drag.
Yeah, inside. I'm talking about inside.
Yeah,
You're thinking too much.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, there's air, right? So you still,
You feel it, yeah. And that's the wind that you would feel. Yep.
Another question from chat. I think you kind of alluded to this before. Why aren't clothes washed in space?
Oh.
Well, we don't have a washing machine, for one. And water is a important commodity. It's pretty heavy, so we don't upmass it. We do recycle the water. And, so yesterday's coffee is today's coffee, kind of thing. So water is very valuable. And we'd have to use quite a bit. And I don't know what the process is to get like a washing machine and how much water you would have to use. But water is a precious commodity. Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I guess this is kind of just a proverbial question for either of you. Why do New York and New Jersey produce so many astronauts?
We apply.
You apply, that's right.
Or that's the thing I want to tell kids. You gotta apply. You gotta get in the game. And so you can't become an astronaut if you don't apply. Yeah.
Maybe it's because we have people like you guys here at Kids Week inspiring everyone in the New York, New Jersey area, huh?
Well, the Intrepid Museum didn't come to New York until when I was in college. The Intrepid Museum came to New York, but we had the American Museum of Natural History that I would go to as a kid, and the Hayden Planetarium. So I think things like having these places to come to, it was huge. It was a place I wanted to go more than I wanted to go to the planetarium, and my parents took me there. We didn't live too far, so. There was a nice young lady.
I want to make sure we have any other questions out here. Go ahead.
I'm very patient right there.
So did you shower in space, or did it, like you said, you had to reuse your exercise clothes? Did it smell bad, or was it different, like in space?
Well, so they didn't smell bad. We do shower. So the nice thing is we have these, hygiene modules is what we call it. And so it's just one of the modules. We have a little curtain. And the way the water works is like water here, it just falls flat. And so in the shower, I would say the showers on Earth are the best. Everything else in space is a little bit better. But so the way it works, water, it turns into a ball. Like surface tension dominates. But when it touches your skin, it kind of spreads out. But water gets everywhere on the station. And so you got to be careful that you don't harm any like important components. So you want to kind of minimize the amount of water. And then the other thing is that usually the modules are cold. They're cold. And so you have to take, it's not a cold shower. You can get a hot water pack. And you just, it's just different. So the water is, you can easily spread it all over and then use the soap and spread all over. Then you have to use one of the towels to remove all of the soap. And so it's just a different process. It's more time consuming. And then here on Earth, you just kind of let the water flow down, soap up, and you just rinse off. And it's so much easier. But showering is, it's not hard and it's not bad. It's just better here on Earth.
All right, and our last question right behind her.
I was curious. I've read that you're allowed to take personal items up, and I've always been curious, like how much you can take, and if you're willing to share what each of you took on your missions.
Oh gosh, so I took a lot of things from friends. Like a friend had a piece of one of the shuttle's skins, and it was encased in this little it's like glue, epoxy. I took stuffed animals from my nieces and nephews. A friend of mine gave me a chipmunk named Jeanette. I took that with me. I took pennants from Lemoyne College, the university I went to. Took T-shirts from University of Maryland, from Lemoyne College, and from other friends. I took a Roy Kent T-shirt. So I took all kind of little things like that. And I took pictures and, I give them back to my friends, the same piece along with the picture and the certificate. And so personal things like that. I even took a picture of my mom and one of an olive wood Bible. So that was really personal. And a card she gave me. Yeah. What did you take to space?
We had, let me ask you this. Did you have a volume that you could fill, or how did it work with you guys?
We had a volume that we could fill. It was one of the cargo transfer bags, like a half of a CTV.
For the whole crew?
We each had our own.
And that went up with you? Or that went up on a cargo ship?
So that went up on one of the cargo ships, like SpaceX 30 and things like that. And then we had some things that arrived before we got there.
Oh, okay. And you were able to play with them?
Oh, yeah.
So on the shuttle, there was like our official flight kit and our personal, they call it personal preference kit. Yeah. Official flight kit were things like more official, like I flew an item.
Like the patches and things.
I flew an item from the American Museum of Natural History. I flew an item from my high school. I flew like a banner from high school.
Wow. And
I flew a varsity letter the second time. But I never saw that stuff. Oh. So all that stuff was packed away in the shuttle. They told us it was there, but it was like underneath. It was kind of in one of those cargo. You had like
hard
cargo.
To get to.
The end of it. Apparently, it was there, but stuff like that. So we had that stuff we would hand in. There was small items too, like people's rings, things like that, pins or things like that. That would all be. That you would hand those in. They would pack them, and you wouldn't play with them. But we had one locker. What's that?
They didn't let you take it out?
Wait a minute. So there was one locker on the shuttle that was called Special Flight Data File, right? They still call it data file. Flight data file is all your checklist.
Your FDF, you got to have
FDF. So there was a Special Flight Data File locker, which was code word for put whatever you want in there. We don't care, right? So they didn't give us too much trouble with that. But if you try to put anything else in there, so I had in there I had what I put in there. I put my Snoopy. I had an astronaut Snoopy that as a little kid that I had. He was on display here at the Intrepid Museum. He's also been out to the Charles Schultz Museum. Wow. But he's here with he's now with me here in New York someplace. So I had my Snoopy with me, and I also flew a Mets jersey. I'm a Mets fan, and I flew a home plate from Shea Stadium.
Oh my gosh!
Which is where the Mets used to play.
Yeah,
that was involved. That was involved. Don Pettit helped me with that. So what happened is we took the measurements of a home. We wanted to see if we could fit in that locker. So I talked to the Mets. They were closing the stadium down. And I said, we'll send you whatever you want. And I go, how about a home plate? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, let me see if it'll fit. So home plate, I looked it up, it's 17 by 17, a home plate.
Yeah.
So we made a little mock-up, and it fit perfectly in one of those lockers, on the shuttle locker.
Awesome.
So I said, send the plate. They sent the plate. But when they sent the plate, it had the black trim around it, right?
Wow.
And the measurements are only for the white part. So the thing didn't fit. And so I asked, like, the flight manager, he goes, I need because we were going to put it, like, in a window shade bag, and he said, no, the story's already getting too long. But what happened is that I went to Don Pettit, and we figured out a way to trim off in his garage. He's a mad scientist. This is where he excels. We trimmed off the black trim with he had to do it because I was too scared to operate on my own home. But he trimmed off the black with an X-Acto knife.
Oh.
I flew the white plate in space, and then we glued the black back on and handed it to the Mets. So
that is awesome.
That's some of the more unusual things that I took with me.
See, I wish I had cool stories like that. No, we had an allotment. I did take some baseballs.
Okay, cool.
Where you like?
Yeah, because are you friends with the commissioner?
Well, it was because the Astros was in the World Series several times. Yeah. So, yeah, we got got the baseball.
We had a baseball there too.
Yeah.
We had, I think Bueno flew a baseball. Mike Good did, and we had a deflated basketball from Edwin Hubble. When Edwin Hubble, they named the telescope after this dude. And at the University of Chicago, he played basketball.
Wow.
And they gave us a deflated. We had to take the air out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like really.
It would have exploded.
I don't know how they played with this thing, even with the air in it. But it had the score on it. It was a national championship game from like 1921.
Wow.
And it was like Chicago 24. And I think they beat like Indiana or someone like that. And I don't think Chicago's played a game since.
No,
like Indiana 21. It was a very low-scoring game. But we had that with us. That was for Edwin Hubble. We also had a replica of Galileo's telescope on board because it was the 400th anniversary of Galileo publishing his findings. And so we had so we could fit more stuff apparently on the space shuttle.
They could sneak more stuff on. That's what I'm
we had our.
Cool.
You just had to be a little creative.
Yeah.
That was all on my second flight. My first flight.
Behaved,
my first flight I behaved. My second flight I started. You start thinking. You kind of.
So you're saying I may need a
fly
second
again and take whatever you like. Yeah.
I wish. I wish. That would be fun.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I haven't heard that story about you flying up the home plate. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome, right?
Yeah. All right, we had that here too for a while. It was here on display at the Intrepid.
That's
I love that.
All right, everyone. Well, that was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you both so much for being here. What a great chat. Please, round of applause for our guests, Jeanette Epps and Mike Massimino. Thank you so much again for being here.
No, thank you.
And thank you all for joining us here today and, of course, tuning in at home as well. Again, I'd like to give a special shout-out to our fabulous American Sign Language interpreter who's been presenting here with us today as well. That's right, just like that.
Yeah, I love that.
So, friends, on site here, there's still plenty of time to check out all of our amazing partners here. Of course, don't miss a chance to see our Enterprise, the space shuttle, right above your heads in the Space Shuttle Pavilion as well if you haven't already. Also, all week long, we're going to be doing this. We've got different themes all week. And also later on, of course, we still have our whole collection of aircraft, the submarine, the Space Shuttle too. But we also this year are going to be unveiling a brand new aircraft up in Hangar 1, a World War II era Corsair. We also this summer have a new exhibit coming in. It'll be on underwater archaeology too, where they actually are able to swim around and find planes that went down underwater to study them too. So, be sure to come back here all year long. We've got so much fun stuff happening. But otherwise, once again, thank you all both so much. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy Kids Week.
Thank you.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FT off. Bring in FT off. It's orange!
Orange 45. Oh my God!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
All clear?